I'm a blue rank Kazuya, and I'm having difficulty staying motivated dealing with matchup checks, throw breaks, strings, etc. All feel like pointless homework getting in the way of the actual game. What is your opinion, and do you consider it good game design? What's up, Pink Name? So, I don't consider it pointless learning in the sense that... for a few reasons. One, I think Tekken is really fun, and part of the fun is that there are so many options you can represent at all times, right? Like the fact that I can go in and threaten Steve's many strings, threaten all of his stances. I have a ton of moves to do, and it makes it kind of cool that I can do all of these moves. And it's not just that I get to hit people with it, right? It's also cool to me to fight somebody who knows how to deal with these moves, who knows how to deal with and defend against these things, and make my offense more sophisticated as a result. So like that's one thing. The other thing is I don't consider it pointless learning because Tekken follows like semi-coherent game design, right? And I say that because it's gotten diluted over the years, but like take a look at this Reina string. 1 2 3 4, right? This string alone can teach you so much about Tekken. 4-hit string, last hit is safe, right? It's only -4, but it's duckable, so I can launch it, right? This is logic that a lot of Tekken strings follow. And I'm saying all this to say that because Tekken follows a coherent design, some of the time, you learning things for one character will translate to other characters, right? So like look at Leo's string. What is this? I don't even know the input. I think it's 1 2 1 4. Look at this, right? -6, so it's a bit less safe, but it's also a 4-hit string that ends in a high, right? So by learning to duck Reina's string, if I see Leo do a 4-hit string, I will automatically have the intuition to duck it. And having that like Tekken intuition is part of what's cool to me too. Now you might be wondering like, well, what if Leo does the mid, right? The mid extension. But this is also like kind of old school Tekken logic where if it's mid, it's probably unsafe. So Leo's is -13. But doesn't that seem kind of crazy that Leo can just do a string and I have to guess between the last hit? That's why they let you duck the 3rd hit. Right? So I don't have to guess mid or high for the last hit if I want to get my reward. If I'm sharp on defense, I can duck the 3rd hit. And this is like kind of what makes Tekken move list bloat somewhat cool, is that usually there's a defensive answer. Now, as of Tekken 8, they've reduced a lot of this, to be fair. So like Jun Kazama has a bunch of strings that are like, you can no longer duck like her 3-ring circus or whatever. If you want to directly compare that Reina string, 1 2 3 4 has a mid. You can't duck the 3rd hit, right? If you try to duck the 3rd hit, you get clipped, and then the last hit hits you. But there's a trade-off. Because it's a mid, if she decides to stop because she doesn't want the last hit to get ducked, she could take a 10-frame punish. So learning things like how to counter one character's options tends to give you insight on how to counter other characters' options. And that's one of the reasons I don't think learning is like unproductive. The other thing is like when it comes to like throw breaks and strings, yes, if your goal is to just fight somebody right away and like play that fighting game, mind game with them, the rock, paper, scissors, then of course knowledge checks are really annoying, right? That's part of the reason I actually enjoy playing Street Fighter a lot, is because you get to skip past that a lot faster and kind of play RPS with the person. And I do think there's a lot of merit to that, right? There's a lot of merit to that. But what makes Tekken so cool to me is that so many characters have so many different options, and you are playing a lot of timing games because it's unrealistic to predict a particular option every single time. And it makes the reads cooler to me. Like, look at this Dragunov 3-hit string. It ends in a high, right? Right, so there's like that mind game. And if he stops early, the fucked up part about this string is like, I don't get a punish. So this is like an example of a string that kind of like is not in alignment with that Reina and Leo string, the 4-hit strings from before. These are like good strings. Also, you can do this now into I think you can go into stance. Yeah. So this is really messed up. This is one of those like Tekken 8 things, right? You can do the partial string into stance. But learning this teaches you to interact beforehand, right? Instead of letting him do this string and then letting him get this mix up, which is like kind of unfavorable. I'm Steve. I just hit him beforehand. I counter hit him. Maybe I'm not Steve. I just jab him, right? If he's doing back 4, that's a 14 frame move. That's slower than my jab. So if I run my stuff first, I can prevent it. So there's a lot of layers to Tekken, kind of based on the fact that there are so many options to learn and so many options to threaten. And to me, especially prior to Tekken 8 and like late game Tekken 7, where they started patching out a lot of character weaknesses, but like all of these move lists were like decently well thought out. Like, yeah, there are some useless moves. Actually, the majority of moves were like kind of useless, but the good moves, the key moves, interacted with each other in kind of a cool way. And I think the process of learning that is fun. It's kind of like how if you compare like a Dark Souls type game, there are tons of different builds to try. There are different ways to use your strengths against the opponent's strength, and that's kind of fun for people, right? So outside of the PvP part where you're like, man, I wish I could make this read on this player, but he keeps knowledge checking me. On the flip side, being able to counter those knowledge checks feels so good. I like the idea of being really mechanically sharp and kind of like hyper aware. Does it make me kind of a nerd who burned a lot of time on Tekken? Sure. I'm not gonna deny that. But there is some cool stuff that I've seen high-level players do in like super nerve-wracking situations. That is just so cool to me. Like the idea that like someone tests you and you blow them up for it. Like Lee, right? If he's round end, he can kill you with this or this, right? But not just that. If he thinks you're gonna block the first hit and then try to punish him, he can do 2. And then he can actually do a bunch, right? So like there's a bit of a knowledge check there. But like, even if you get hit by this, you can low parry, right? So it's like, yes, I have 0 health here, but in this situation, if I catch my opponent trying to knowledge check me and I blow them up for that, that feels really good. I like that a lot. I like the idea of if I put in the work, if I put in the effort, there's a lot I can outplay an opponent with, you know? So I want to acknowledge like the frustration of learning a game like Tekken, where there is so much and there's so much to get tricked by, while also like pointing out that I think it would not be very Tekken of them to dumb that down. I think the presence of so many options and the ability to make outplays on those different levels and the ability to train to defeat those options consistently is part of what makes Tekken so cool, right? Like, that's part of what made Yagami's Reina so cool, is like Reina player 59 online was not doing the things that Yagami was doing. Right? Like this, doing this to like change up the offense. You didn't see a lot of like Korean Yagami players doing that. Throwing out these different options, understanding how to overwhelm an opponent with different stuff, right? So to me, the many options that exist in Tekken are just a challenge to be overcome. And I think it's really cool, actually, that there are so many different options in the game. It's not for everybody, for sure. Which is why I think stuff like Street Fighter is popular for, like, experienced gamers to pick up right away, because they can get to the PvP faster. Did I say Korean Yagami players? I meant Korean Reina players. But yeah, I think that's an important thing to consider, is like the stuff you learn is never wasted, because there is stuff that translates across matchups. The muscle memory of ducking a high and launching it is like going to stick with you. If you can do it against one character, it's easier to do against other characters. Learning combos on one character makes it easier to combo on other characters. Right? So, I don't think any of it's wasted. And I personally find it fun. But I get that it's not for everybody. So, have faith that the time you spend developing Tekken skills for one character or against one character is not wasted. It's not wasted time in the sense that it will make you better against other Tekken characters too, you know? That's pretty important. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Hopefully that answers your question.
And that is it for this video. If you like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Those really help me out, guys. And check out my other videos where I teach a lot of newbie friendly tutorials and beginner guides for Tekken enthusiasts. And And as you guys may know, I was a Noctis main in Tekken 7. There is no Noctis anymore, so if I play a little subpar, that's probably why I haven't found my new main yet. And I keep telling myself it might be Lily, but I might go back to Steve, because I'm not sure how I do well in high-rank competitive play. And if I lose, I down a bottle of wine. So prevent me from becoming an alcoholic. And like, comment, subscribe today!